All right, welcome to Wealth Cartel Season 2, Episode 3. And today we've got my man, Tristan K'Nell here. How are you, brother?
Doing well, Kingy. Thanks for inviting me on the podcast, mate.
No, you're welcome. So just to intro everyone before we get started, we do this fresh every time now. So obviously on the Wealth Cartel podcast, if this is your first time listening, our mission is to stop people from saying, I wish I'd listened, and to help people capitalize on everyone else's mistakes before making them ourselves. In summary, our tagline says it all. We want to turn our hindsight into your foresight. So usually there's me and Akko on here, but Akko's busy moving house in the rain today, which fucking sucks. So he's not going to make it. So this will go heaps quicker because he just flaps his gums the whole time anyway. But, you know, myself, so I'm a lad from the Central Coast and from out west. I grew up through both of them, and, you know, I grew up without any real wealth around me and sort of had to figure it all out, and have made quite a few mistakes along the way, which have been important and got me to where I am today, as have our guests, which we're trying to highlight and help you guys learn from there. But pretty much that's it. I run my own company, Three Kings Wealth Management, a financial advisor. Got the podcast and a couple other things on the side, but that's my main thing. And my whole idea with our business is to ensure people are learning how to look after tomorrow while enjoying the today. So that's enough about us today. We've got TK on today. You might know him from one of my favorite podcasts, Talking with TK, where he gets, I don't know, every athlete ever on, some big names on. You know, we gelled up. I don't know, we gelled up a couple of years ago now, where you know, me being an advisor that wanted to look after a few athletes, I sort of was following the podcast and got in touch with TK and sent a couple of athletes his way. I think Beaver being the biggest one, who obviously I work very close with now. That was a great chat with Beaver you had too, by the way.
No, I really enjoyed it.
And, you know, TK gets quite a few really good insights on your podcast, man. Like some, you know, a lot of my favorite ones are from. So I've got two styles I like of your podcast, like because it's a lot of NRL, right? There's a lot of NRL on there. I really like the retired players coming on and giving their insight to what life was like and the transition phase. I love that. I love that part, because that's what Steve did on our podcast. And it's just something, you know, when you leave the military, when I left the military, it's that same bubble mentality that Steve talked about. And you don't think of it as that. And there's NRL players go through it too, which is cool. But I also like when you get current players on, like they're the ones that are really open about their struggles and their, you know, what it's like under the pressure. Because a lot of people go, stop your whinging. You're playing footy for a living and you're on millions of dollars. How hard can life be? But you know, we really play down the hard times that they go through, and I really like that. He's also an equities and derivatives dealer at CMC Markets. A lot of you guys will know the name CMC Markets if you're a trader, but you also know it if you listen to anything I say. And a lot of you traders out there, when I recommend you listen to their The Art of Trading podcast from CMC Markets, my favorite podcast of all time. Obviously, second to this one and TK, Talking with TK. But yeah, so mate, welcome. Thanks for coming on. How are you?
Doing very, very well. Thanks again for having me on. But yeah, you're right about the ex-players and just the comparison with the new players as well. The other one I like, and I think you probably would as well, the coaches, mate, because the coaches are very analytical, very planning, very kind of, I really like it because of the strategies they use. And they have a lot of things with leadership, culture. They're a little bit older as well. And you know what it's like. We're always kind of open to taking a little bit more advice from someone a little bit older than us, right?
Or sometimes.
So, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like,
unless it's your parents.
Yeah, exactly right. But if your grandpa or something talks or your uncle talks, usually you're open ears, you know what I mean? That's what it kind of feels like at times, someone like that. So I really enjoy that.
I'll be honest, I don't click on a lot of the coaches ones because I think was it Craig's? Did you have Craig Fitzgibbon on? Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So he's player coach, right? That was a cool one because that sort of, he has that double insight. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That was cool. But I don't like, you know, do you know that mentality people say, you know, those who can't teach, you know, they can't do
yeah.
I tell you what, until I listened to, I think it was Bellamy. I think it was a different podcast I had. It was like not even a podcast, an interview with Bellamy on it. And until I listened to that, I never was really interested in what they had to say. Because I never got very far in my footy, and I didn't really. I just thought, players are the go. And then I realized it's much like my business, right? Like I don't need to be a multi-millionaire or billionaire to be able to tell people what to do with their money.
You're guiding people, Ryan.
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's essentially what it is. There's a lot of it's just man management and making people feel good and getting the best out of people.
And that's what I sort of found is with those guys is that their ability to match their training regime with the psychology of the player. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Bellamy's unbelievable.
Oh, he's really scary, man.
He's really intense in that box.
He's a little bit intimidating. All right, so before we kick off, when we kick off, so tell us, intro yourself now to us, bro. Tell us sort of who you are, where you're from, where you grew up, what life was like growing up, and sort of what led you to where you are now.
Yeah, cool. So I grew up in Quakers Hill, which is out west near Blacktown.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I went.
Where'd you go to?
I went to St Andrews, which was Holy Family and John Paul II. And I grew up, my parents are from Mauritius, so they're originally born there. They came here relatively young. Like, mum came here when she was about 12. She grew up in Canada Bay. So that's where kind of my grandparents were for a long time. So going between Quakers Hill and Canada Bay, that was kind of my weekly thing. Canada Bay on the weekends, and then Quakers Hill Monday to Friday, and then sports obviously on Saturday mornings. But yeah, childhood was great. Me and my brother, because my brother's only 2 years older than me, but my sister's 7 years younger than me. So there's a massive gap between us. And me and my brother always laugh because when me and my brother were growing up, they both worked at the same time, right? So they both earning pretty good money. We used to go overseas all the time, have everything that we want until Juliet came. And that just set it on fast, mate. We never went, I think we went overseas once. All of a sudden.
You're that classic 3-kid curse, eh?
Yeah, mate. It's just, we say it, we became poor. When Jules was born, we became poor because it went all, because she was an ice skater, mate. And she did like these private lessons, I reckon, 3 or 4 times a week. And it was like at about $100 a pop. Like,
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's rent. That was rent back then.
Yeah, was it what? And then, but I can't complain because we had heaps of sport. For me and my brother are kind of different. Like, he was very computery, but me, sports. So I played tennis, rugby league, soccer. I was boxing.
Did you play footy for?
I played St Andrews. I was school captain for them.
Yeah.
So I just played all my, because I was refereeing at the same time.
Yeah, right.
So I did reffing on Saturday and Sunday mornings, and then I was playing Thursday for school because we had a footy school. We were a footy school as well.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Yeah.
What year were you in Quakers Hill? What year were you living there? From what year to what year?
Oh, my parents still lived there.
Did they? Because we lived on Montrose Street.
Yeah, we lived on Talligandra Drive, and then they moved off Lime Street. So that's off Quakers Hill Parkway.
Yeah, okay. So we were just on the other side of the train tracks.
Yeah.
We're on the other side because I went to Quakers Hill Public.
Okay, yeah, nice.
I used to walk.
The Quakers boys. Quakers in.
Yeah, good. Oh, I still remember that Oyster School Patrick from the Quakers in. It was the bomb until it got lit on fire.
I went to lunch with Mum last year out there. It's quite good there still, mate. The restaurant there is hectic, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so if you ever go back there, check it out, mate. It's good.
I will. That's some nostalgia there.
But yeah, childhood was good, mate. We went overseas. Like, my parents really exposed me to a lot, especially before Juliet was born. We went overseas like literally every year. So you get to kind of, as a youngster, get to see the different cultures around the world and appreciate everyone. I think that's why I've got such a diverse mix of friends now, because I love learning about different cultures and people and just seeing the differences but similarities between everyone. And I think I learned that very, very early. I think that's huge, especially in today's day and age. But yeah, Quakers Hill, I went to St Andrews Primary School and then the Holy Family and John Paul II. So those two, the senior part, they're now St Andrews College. That's what it's called now. Okay. But man, it was mad. Like, it's a very especially around Blacktown, Quakers Hill, heaps of Filipinos as well. Like, I had heaps of my mates that were Filos. My mum's best friend's Filipino. So again, you learn that sort of culture and you kind of get really interested. And I think that's kind of where my curious side is and my adventurous side. Like, I want to continue. Like, I hate being in, like, this border thing is just killing me because I just want to go overseas and see something new, you know.
So sport and travel is really your life, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I love it. Both sides of things are so much fun, right? And it's just.
So do you travel to watch sport as well?
Mate, I have to America.
Yeah.
We did a trip once where we did a couple of NBA games, a couple of NFL games, an NHL game. Like, it was cool. Yeah, like, really cool.
Do you follow a lot of the American sport over here?
Yeah, I do. Like, I'm a Lakers fan. Yeah, so I love the Lakers. Like, I was very, very lucky that I got to see Kobe play a couple of times. And at the same time, I got to see LeBron play as well, which was pretty cool. But at the moment, like, the lockdown, I think, has changed the way the game's played a little bit. Like, that's a very fan-dominated game. Like, they are literally a sixth man because they can influence a an event big time. But now, because it's just like closed doors, it kind of just feels like the intensity of the games is just lacking, and it just feels like a pickup game more than an actual competition.
With the UFC without the crowds, I loved it more.
Well, it's giving you more insights and sounds, right?
Oh, genuinely, I felt a lot of fight. You got sort of two kind of fighters. You got the martial artists and then the entertainers, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the entertainers lost their edge a little bit.
Well, they're struggling. Have a look at Conor McGregor, for example. He's a showman, right? Yeah, absolutely. But you're right. Even Masvidal to an extent on the weekend as well. But I guess the crowd was back for that one. But
there could have been nerves, whatever. I love being able to see the actual martial artists in the ring doing their thing without any other distractions. Like it was.
Well, have a look at Robert Whittaker. How much he's improved over the last year. So I'd love to see that fight with Izzy as well.
I'd love to chat with Bobby Knuckles about that. I reckon because after Izzy, he did come out and say he wasn't sure, like he didn't feel like it, he wasn't feeling it anymore. And I wonder whether, because he's such a humble guy, I'd love to get an insight to see whether it was because of the entertainment factor. Like you saw him and Izzy sort of going back and forth, and he didn't really want to bar it. He was like, "Whatever, man, let's just fight." But then as soon as you take that away, it's back to his square roots. I'm getting in there to fight.
I think he was hard done by as well, because he didn't fight for 2 years before that fight because of all the injuries.
Injury run left,
and then they throw him in against the best guy in the division, who's just as good as him, if not better than him. He really needed kind of like a tune-up fight before he took Izzy, because
I can't wait to see him go back, bro. He looks unbelievable.
Yeah, especially with the wrestling that he's starting to introduce. Like that's something that against Yarn that Izzy really struggled with as well. So those takedowns can be pretty crucial, and just that just a dominating time that he spent, especially against Gastelum on the top of it.
Oh, mate, he looks so good. He's backed it, and he when he was champion, same as like us Aussies we get absolutely railed. Like Volk and Whittaker, two of the most underrated champions. Like people just sit there and go, oh, this, that, like they're guns, man. Like when he was coming, even before he got the title, I was like, watch Whittaker, like he's a freak. Same as Jimmy Crute. Like I've been on Jimmy Crute's train for years now. Like I love him. People probably only started seeing him last fight where he did his knee.
Yeah, poor thing.
Oh, mate, he's the toughest bloke I've ever seen. Anyway, back to you. So you grew up, went to school, went up to the which is now senior college, yeah?
Yeah, so what happened was in year 12, you can apply because our local university is the University of Western Sydney. So in year 12, they offer you an opportunity to put a portfolio together of kind of like your achievements. So kind of your academic and sporting achievements, send it in, and you can get early acceptance into different courses. So I got accepted into two. I got accepted into commerce and then applied finance. So I was always kind of interested in that finance kind of space. And so I took that up. So even before I did the HSC, I had a place in university, which was really good. And it's not the fact that I didn't have to really study as hard. It just takes, what it's like, Ryan, when you're in year 12 and you're panicking, this is the end of the world. This is going to be the only thing ever.
Hey, don't talk to me about year 12.
You know what I mean? You think it's going to set your life up when it really isn't.
I bailed on year 12, bro. Don't talk to me about year 12.
So there you go. Like my best mate.
I was good to go, and then
school, right? And now he lives in London on a huge amount of money, running one of the biggest paint companies in the world. Like, you don't need, like, I'm not saying drop out of school. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying is, don't put all your eggs into your basket when you're 17, 18. You don't have to, and you don't think it's the end of the world.
They just need to take that stress off people to do better. I was So up to I was a bit like, I was a smart kid, and then I threw it sort of away because I played footy and I was more interested. I was bored, bro. I got so bored at school. I just hated learning that shit. But I did really well. I was in all the good classes, applied maths, applied English, and all the chemistry, biology, all that good shit. And I hated it. And then so in year 11, I said, you know what? Because year 11 you start your trials, right? And I was like, I'll knuckle down. Did heaps good. Came like top 3 in every subject. And then because my mates were all derelicts, like my mates were all just invalid footy players that had no IQ. We went sat into the PE exam, and they said, "Oh, King, can you chuck this cheat sheet in the toilet?" I said, "Yeah, no worries. Like whatever. I'm not like literally I would have got less points for using it. I chucked it in the toilet, come out, smashed my exam. They all did like fail. And then some chick, she was one of those, like I get my mum to write me a letter to get an extension on my assessments and all that shit. And she complains that she saw someone cheating because I've got a kidney disease, right? So I go to the toilet a lot. And so I went to the toilet a lot. And this is before I knew about the kidney disease. And they pinned me for it. And the teacher even said, Kingy, like, I know you would have got less marks than what you did for using that cheat sheet. Like, that was basic shit. And I was like, yeah, I didn't use it. Like, I put it in there, but I didn't use it. And then they're like, well, unless you roll on everyone else, we're going to give you 0. I was like, well, I'm not a rat. You know, I was like, I'm not a rat. So I got 0, right? Got 0, went from coming 3rd in the year across the board to like 20th. And I just pretty much didn't turn up to school for the next year and a half. And just went fishing and surfing every day in the gym. And then I ended up sitting the HSC, still passed, still got enough to be accepted into my uni course, and went, stuff that, fuck learning, I'm going to the army.
Those things of stuff at school, you just kind of like, I'll be more interested to learn it now. Like, for example, back in school, history, I didn't want to do it, right? But now I'm so fascinated about how it all started and all the different things. Legal, like for me and you, we want to learn different things about legal because it might help us now. But back then, I'm going, why the hell would I want to learn legal studies?
Then that's what people always say to me. Oh, they should have taught us this in school. And I'm like, do you reckon you would have listened? Like about money, right? And I'm like, fuck no. There's no. I can barely get them to listen to me about superannuation now, let alone when I was 16. Like,
pretty much. They should have half day when you're in year 10 to year 12. They should have like a half days twice a week and make them work, even if it's just at Macca's or anything. Like learn some actual social skills. Like it's probably even worse now because I'm sure the kids have all got their phones and stuff like that. So it's probably even becoming worse because they're all probably texting each other and all that sort of stuff. They can't even hold a conversation pretty much. So
imagine trying to teach now. It'd be horrible.
Oh, would it what?
So tell us what else. So after school, you got into uni, and then what happened?
So straight into uni, that was applied finance. So 18 again. I still think it's too young because I've been to uni 3 times now. And when I was first at uni, like all I cared about was just passing and just really just hanging out with my mates, having beers, right? But as you get on and you're doing postgraduate stuff, because I've done my MBA and I've also done a sports media graduate diploma as well. I just finished that at UTS. And the thing is like when you pay for it out of your own money and you kind of want to do something because it's something that you're interested in and trying to move towards somewhere, you start applying yourself a lot more. Like, for example, I've got a distinction average in my postgraduate stuff and barely a pass average on my bachelor's degree. Because like literally I wouldn't go to class. I would just be because at this time I was refereeing and I was at a really high level because we were coming through, and like all my best mates now, they're all the guys that are in the NRL now. And that's the guys I came through with. But we all got to pretty, like when I left when I was 25 and I was in under 20s, which was Jersey Flag.
Yeah.
And that was from 18 to 26. It was a factor. We were probably training like 4 or 5 times a week, games on the weekend. Like it was kind of the reverse. It was the same as being a player, just you refereeing, right? Same type of commitment, same types of standards, all that sort of stuff. But it was good because it taught me so much discipline. Like now, it helped me because I had a few kind of mentors in that space that really helped me buckle down and learn how to kind of push through your comfort zone, I reckon it was, right? Because I was always very, very athletic. So I got away, even when I was playing sports always through, you'd get away with being talented, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to push myself to the point, when you just say you start hurting, that would be my point where I'd just give up and I'd just go, oh, no, I'm going to sit down for a bit, you know what I mean? But now there's like another level, even though I'm now 38, like I wish I had this training mentality that I've kind of picked up over the years, because now I know how to push past the breaking point, because it isn't really a breaking point. It's just kind of that first test I feel mentally. And I'm sure
40% they reckon when you hit that first breaking point, you've only hit 40% of your capacity, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. We used to, in the army, that was probably the thing, because I trained like an animal. So my PT was an ex-commando before I joined the army. He's what convinced me to join. And I used to train, bro. And that was my thing. When I hit the military, like I was in peak, like I lost fitness joining the military. I was in peak condition. And at training, I used to like love it. Like I'd be running and put like at the front, just gassing out, throwing up on the run, just big smile on my face. And that was the thing that learning before I joined the army, learning how to push through that barrier and love the pain. And to be honest, it's probably something I miss now. Like it's something that when I left the army and started working in corporate, I really struggled to find, because I didn't feel like it anymore. Like there was no reason. So my training went down, and that's where a lot of the head problems come from military people, because there's no reason to push through shit anymore. Like there's no purpose behind it. So when I have a bad day, instead of just figuring it out and pushing through, I just let it consume me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important point you just brought up. Learning how to both mentally and physically push through that barrier.
Yeah, was there much feedback, Ryan, when you were in the army? Because like right now, especially now that, I work in a corporate environment, we get feedback maybe once a year in terms of like what you're doing well, what things you can improve on. But then because we've been in a sporting environment, and you probably army environment as well, I wanted to ask you about the army stuff, but in the sporting environment, you get it on a weekly basis, not a daily basis.
Monthly. You get a day. You get daily. Like you get feedback every time you do an exercise. You do a debrief, right? So every time you do something, you get a debrief, so you know straight away. But then you have a monthly PAR, which is performance appraisal report. So every month, you one-on-one with your commanding officer sit down and figure out what you're doing well, what you're doing poorly, what you need to improve, etc. But at the end of the day, every single task you do, your corporal will sit down, or your superior will sit down and debrief you on that major task. So that's a good point, because working in corporate, I don't remember the last debrief or feedback I got. It's only when you superiorly mess up, or you flip your lid in the office, that they pull you aside.
Mate, roll on military, like I'm reading this book now. It's about the F1 fighter pilots, and it's about how they create all their missions. It's so interesting, man, how they do it from the top to the bottom to even reviewing it afterwards. I'm nearly done. I'll have to send it out to you.
Yeah, it's easy, mate. I actually, when I started in finance, I tried to create a financial plan that was based off how we plan our missions in the military.
Yeah.
Because they do in the military, your mission planning is called a SMAC, right? Your orders is called a SMAC, which you plan out situation, mission, execution, admin log, and then communications, and you sort of break it down there, and then there's phases to it. And that's just the direct planning. I tried to create a financial plan off the back of it for soldiers and for military members, but since then, I don't really enjoy working with other military guys, because a lot of them are a bunch of sacks. No offense, full offense to all my military mates out there. So what else? So tell us a bit more. What happened after that? So you went to uni.
Uni 3 years, and then I finished kind of that December. It was kind of just rough chance, back in the day. Newspapers, they used to have like advertisements for jobs and things like that. Yeah, crazy. But there was one for just an office junior job. It was called Andrew West Stockbroking. So Andrew West Stockbroking ended up so I applied for that job, got it. So it's your kind of an entry-level position. So literally you're doing all the contract notes, you're mailing everything out, you're cleaning up the kitchen, you're going errands, you're going to all the clients, picking checks up, you're doing it is the shit kicker's job. I still remember, like in my second week, it was pissing down just like it is today, right? And I was on George Street, and I remember this like it was yesterday. And I was taking some stuff to one of the bigger clients, and I got a big bus came, and there was a big puddle, and the bus came through it and splashed me. I mean, I got covered head to toe, just wet. I was just drenched. And it was this kind of, when you grow up and you pretty much, we lived a pretty good life, like most of us growing up, had most of the stuff that we wanted, et cetera, et cetera. And, that was kind of like my turning point between me thinking of being privileged or just doing a hard job for someone, because I could easily just quit that day. I could have, like, in my mind, when I first had it, I was like, oh, I can't. I just graduated from uni. You know what I mean? Like, I'm better than this. And then I turn the corner, I go, wait, no, I'm not better than this. I've got to prove myself. This is a good opportunity to do it. So that was kind of the first kind of light bulb that kind of went through, that you got to do everything to the best of your ability. And I know a lot of people say that, but I'm kind of big in it. And it was reinforced a few weeks ago. I heard this line by Drew Brees, the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. And he said, the way that you do everything is, what did he say? The way you do everything is the way you do everything. So, for example, just say you're cleaning at home. If you do a half-assed job, that's just you. And that's going to be affected across your whole life. Like, you'll see it, because I see it in my life now. The people that are lazy in my life, they have so many bad habits all around.
100%. We said this on the podcast last week, bro. This is so funny you said that, because I said to Akko when we're in the gym, People that like, I see people who even if they lift huge weights, they don't put their weights back. You're a piece of shit.
100%.
Your life is half falling apart.
If you don't put your weights back, you are trying to say that you are better than everyone else, and you don't have to.
But you can put the effort in on that thing that you think matters, but that little small attention to detail doesn't matter to you. That translates across the rest of your life, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. So that's a big thing that was always driving me, but I didn't really know how to bring it out until Drew said that. And then as soon as he said it, it resonated with me. Like when I'm at home, even if I'm cleaning, I'm putting 100% in. Like I want it to be spotless. I want it to be like.
There's a little downfall in that too, though. There's a little downfall in that as well. Is from efficiency point of view. So my wife, like you can ask anyone that comes. I always get teased at home for being a lazy ass, right? Because I work, I train, and I look after the lawn. Gemma does everything else. She cooks, she cleans, whatever.
Yeah.
But people forget I was once a domestic god when I was single and in the army, right? I did everything. and when she come along, we always joke she ruined me because she doesn't. It's not. I don't not do stuff. She doesn't want me to do stuff, and half the reason is if I start cleaning, there's no stopping me. Like I will white glove the window sills. I will go for 5-6 hours. Like I won't stop. And that's why she cleans. She enjoys it, but she stopped me because she's like, babe, sometimes it doesn't need that much of a clean. Like because if I start it, it'll.
So you're over the top. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know, and so it's really interesting you say that because I'm exactly the same. But
see, and the other one that was really I learned about. I was, one part I was really lazy at. Making my bed. And then I watched this thing about 5 years ago. One of my mates, Grant, he sent me this. I'm not sure if you've seen it. It's this military guy doing a university thing. And he's got a book about it. Yeah. And maybe the military thing, because what I forgot to tell you as well, my dad worked for the Department of Defense for 35 years. So he worked at the Army barracks at Paddington. So for me, again, summer holidays, I used to always go in there. So again, I grew up around all these Army people as well. And that Army barracks, I'm not sure if you've been in there, but that place is amazing, man.
Yeah.
Like, this place is amazing. It's got footy fields everywhere, tennis courts. Mate, this has got, like, Wimbledon-style tennis courts for all the generals and all that sort of stuff. Like, you're meeting, like, when I was younger, I met all these, like, high-ranking Army people and all this stuff because my dad...
It's only a reserve base now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just a reservist base at the moment. So I was supposed to give a seminar there about a year ago, and it got called off because of COVID.
There you go. Yeah, but back in the day, it was the main base in Sydney. So they used to house people, everything, man. And they had this. I think back because they've got everything sandstone there, right? So they used to have this. They had this building that was as long as a football field, and I think at the time in the southern hemisphere, it was the longest sandstone building in the world, or something like that, or in the hemisphere, whatever it is. But it was amazing. It was only like 2 stories high, but this thing and the structure of it just looked unbelievable.
I love the old Army buildings, bro. We went out to not Manly, like out at DY, whatever it is. There's a base out that way.
Yeah.
An old base up on the head. And I'd never been there, but my wife's dad, he was in the military for 30 years and he was first ever base there. And we went and had a look around and it's so different, bro. Now in all the new bases, it's all functional, it's all concrete or it's metal or tin or whatever. But all these old buildings are gorgeous. They're fucking amazing.
Yeah. But I know that you want to talk about I should have brought this up earlier, especially around dad, because early lessons. I know that you want to talk about early lessons, man, today. And probably the first one, because like I said, we grew up in Quakers Hill, right? And I just told you that my dad worked in Paddington. So I would hear dad wake up every morning, right? And it was a good lesson for me because for him to get to work on time and all that sort of stuff, he would have to leave because he would want to start as early as possible in the morning because he needed to get back so then he could take me to soccer and footy, all sorts of different things, right? For him to do that, he would have to wake up at 5 o'clock. And I thought he was a madman waking up at 5 o'clock because we don't start school till like 8:30, right? So we'll be waking up at 7. That's lazy. And I just didn't get it until I became an adult. And now it's a piece of piss. And it's because of him. Because if he did it, I can do it. And he showed me the benefit of being up early as well, how much you can actually do in the morning. And when I saw it, heavy influence from him, that was easy, very easy for me to kind of even, especially going for a uni, you become lazy again. And you develop bad habits of sleeping in or that sort of rubbish. But then you're able to go back to your childhood and think about things, especially when you start working and it becomes hard for the first couple of months and you're thinking, wow, is this the real world? Waking up at 5:30, 5 o'clock, if I want to go to the gym before I go to the, you know what I mean? Like that all came from him, man. And I think it's very, very important. I think an early start to your day and doing things before you actually start work and being up as early as possible, I think that's huge. And I don't think a lot of people take that.
See, I'll challenge you on that because like I'm not an early starter. Like I am. Like I get up at 5:30 now, but I think it's important. Like we don't push onto people like with all these hustlers that everyone has to get up early. I think the message is get up early enough to get what you need done, right?
Yeah.
As in, because I was getting up I was doing 4 a.m. starts last year and I thought, this is the thing. And for about 3 months, I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then I realized like I was falling asleep towards the back end of my meetings in the Arvo because then I'd wake up at 4 and I'd still work till 10. You know what I mean? Like I didn't. And I had to sort of re-gauge and sort of think, okay, what's an efficient time to wake up early enough to get everything done, but also get adequate sleep and not burn out. You know what I mean? I think that's important because you get up at that time because that works, right? That works the time for you to get up and fit everything in. But there's some people that could do that and it wouldn't work. And I think it's important that it's less of the internal feeling of it is you are challenging yourself to get up at the time you need to get up that you're not comfortable with to do get the things done that need to be done, right?
Yeah, kind of. I reckon the other thing is as well, just having it like talking with my other podcast, when I first started the other one, that was the vision board. I was able to talk to guys that were very efficient and qualified in things like sleep and things like that. Sleep efficiency really kicks in at between that 9 and 10 p.m. So what I mean is by starting it earlier and you ending it earlier, you start becoming more efficient because your sleep quality becomes better. And that makes it very easy to get up at 5 o'clock because you've already had that quality sleep in. I think a lot of people push it back. And the other thing that I'd push for people to start their day earlier is the more stuff you do in the morning that you think. So, for example, I was even having a conversation with one of my good mates at work yesterday, and she keeps missing sessions because she is the same thing. She's a late starter, but she wants to keep going to the gym. But by the time the day's up, she's fed up and she doesn't want to go to the gym. So I'm trying to push her to even try in the morning because the efficiency of going in the morning is once it's done, there's nothing that can get in its way.
Yeah.
So if that's done and that's your main goal, like it's not working for her because obviously she's busy as hell and then things happen during the day and then she doesn't want to go. And that's really like your health should be your priority. That's where people get it wrong.
100%. 100% it should. 100%. I stopped going to the gym in the morning because I was lifting my big numbers and I needed food in me to go on the Arvo, and it got really hard. It got so hard because I want to train at about 2 p.m. That's my.
But you're being smart too because your chance of injury, the way that I've seen how you lift. If you tried to do what I do in the morning, you would get injured very, very quickly because
that's the thing. But I was trying to. Like I feel like training at 2 p.m. That's when my body's going, Kingy, let's lift, that's what I want to. But now I'm back at morning. So I'm back to an early block because same thing. Like I could have one meeting go astray and I miss gym for the day. And then the only chance I've got is going at 7 and I don't want to take pre-workout at 7. I don't want to get down there. You know what I mean? So that's only a 4-week block I ever do that. Now for the next 8 weeks, I'll be in the gym at 5:30, 6 a.m., getting out what needs to be done until I hit those levels, and I think that's important for people to understand because, that's 90% of my time, 80% of my time, I'm hitting the gym early and getting it done. It takes away so much stress on the rest of the day.
Oh, absolutely. And it depends on goals too, because, we all got egos and things like that. Like I've lost my ego in the gym as well. So for example, like I won't do 100% max lifts anymore. I'll probably maybe 85%, I reckon, especially at 38. I'm a lot more efficient and I work on a lot more technique stuff than I did before, especially how old are you now, Ryan?
30.
Yeah. So for example, I reckon that's when your kind of peak strength comes in, I reckon, around 30. But now that I'm 38 again, 100%. That's again from ego, from pushing too hard as well. But you're lucky because you've learned different things. So you had a Australian strength coach doing a lot of your programming before, didn't you? So he was doing yours. Yeah. So you've learned the ins and outs of doing efficient programming, which a lot of people don't do. Again, people go to like the biggest thing, because I did personal training for 2 years as well when I had a break from finance. And the biggest thing is that people go to the gym, people don't realize they can hire like a strength coach or a PT. I would highly recommend you do that or learn it properly, because it's going to cost you more in your rehab and even like trying to get to your goal quicker if you know what you're doing, rather than you trying to read something off Google off some bloke with just, you know what it's like on YouTube. These guys with just genetic gods, right? So they could do anything and they would still put muscle on. But for the majority of the world, it's not like that.
Genetic gods who are jamming that much gear and telling people they're not, and the average Joe jumps in, thinks they can do the same thing.
100%. But you may as well invest in yourself by hiring that PT or that strength coach to write you out programs. As you did, you invest in yourself. That's why you're good. Why you do your 150 kilo bench press and your 200 kilo squat max. You know what I mean? 300 kilo. I've seen you, man. Like, but there's a reason why, because you got help from an expert to help you progress towards that goal. It was always in you to do it because you got a great body shape. You always learn discipline from your sports. But then someone helped you put a program together and teach you the blocks and how to do it, right?
Without doubt. Like I've always been strong and good trainer, and I'm a qualified PT myself and all that stuff. But the same thing, my ego was always there, and I used to, every week I train 1RM. I only 1RM now on testing week, which is once every 12 weeks.
Yeah, there you go.
Every other session I do is a programmed progression, over progressive overload program. So that was a big thing. And then Akko mentioned it the other week on the podcast as well. He said, because he started training with me, I started changing the way he trains as well for the same thing. He said, I used to bench and I used to whack on heaps of weights and want everyone to watch me and bench. He goes, I was in the gym with Kingy the other week, and there was about 4 of them having a chat, and I was just doing my thing, and I had about 160, 165 on there, and he goes, Akko was like, I was just watching him, and he didn't say nothing to anyone. He just laid down for his set. And I said to him, "You're on a spot?" He goes, No, I'm all good. You keep talking. And he pushed out, and I ended up pushing out 6 or 7 reps at 165. And Akko was like, the fuck? And I re-racked it, took my weights off, and he said, it blew his mind. It changed the way he thought, because if he was going to push that weight, he wanted everyone to be watching him, you know what I mean? And he noticed that those who are doing good at whatever it is don't care who's watching. They're running their own race and focusing on themselves and trying to win, And I thought that was a really good lesson for me, because I didn't realize I was doing that, but I realized that mentality I'd begun from the programming and from that new style of training is actually helping me across the board, in everything I do.
Yeah, it's all about kind of being very open-minded as well. Like growing up, I never even knew what a kind of resistance band was. And I became friends with this strength guy from America. His name is Joe DeFranco. And he's just super fucking just switched on. He was kind of a bit of a mentor when I was doing my PT stuff. And he taught me all about that sort of like the band, how band work can be so beneficial in there. Like I remember I didn't even know what a band pull apart was. Now it's kind of like a real staple in my thing, especially for someone like an office worker. Like office workers don't realize how bad their posture can get. Like when I just sat back now, I just corrected my posture. So I know where it needs to be, like on a daily basis. So there's so much strength stuff that you can do through resistance bands for office workers just to help them, because they don't realize, like a lot of people go into the gym and only focus on what you can see in the mirror, which is the front of you, right?
Yeah.
For an office worker, you should be focusing on everything behind you.
Yeah.
Because that's your strength stuff, and they're the things that kind of fail moving forward. Like these are the things that you're going to get from office workers, right? Back injuries, heavy, like tight hips and tight hamstrings. Where's those 3 focus areas from?
Yeah.
It's going to be from your glutes, your hammies, and kind of your trapeze, like your upper back. Like that's where people fail, because they don't do any strength work in the area.
And when they go to the gym, all they do is bench press and curls.
100%.
That's that was a big problem of mine for years.
Yeah, we just don't realize, and people don't realize that. They think because they're working it and they can see it in the mirror that they're working hard, but they're actually
they don't realize the problems that creates later either. And
they're creating inefficiencies, because your chest and your buys are getting bigger. So no wonder you're hunching over, because you're huge, bro. You know what I mean?
You're huge, bro. Take it easy. All right, so let's move on. So where are we up to with your life? What did you end up finishing with?
I think I was just telling a story about how we got into Andrew West.
Yeah, that's right. You were. Kick on.
Yeah, so
cautious of time for you. So
you're right, no dramas. So with Westy, because he, and again, like lessons you learn. Westy was the CEO of the company.
Yeah.
But the way we worked on Pitt Street in a building called Angel Place, and this is 2003. So they only just started.
That's where Ivy is, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty close. You can see
Yeah.
you can see Ivy pretty much from there. But especially back then, it's a very customer orientated business, right? So customers would come in, like there was no online. Like there was no online back then. So everything was done over the phone, or people could come in and just sit down. So the way the actual company was structured, you can walk in the door, there's like 9 brokers, and you could sit at their desk, put trades on, all that sort of stuff, right? But Westy used to sit on the floor with us and he would be the first through the door and last to leave, and he would be working as a dealer as well. So it kind of showed me very, very early on in terms of the work ethic that is required, especially when you work in the business. Like people don't realize that a lot of people only do 9 to 5, and that's fine, right? But, we were talking before we switched on, you told me a little bit, you work into the evenings. So when you work early in the morning, at 9 to 5, you might even take a break in the middle, but it kind of like the entrepreneur, that was the first time I'd been exposed to that.
Do to get it done, right?
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is just like you're wearing so many hats, as you know now, and you're kind of doing that. And I really learned that from him, that work ethic again, to reinforce what kind of my dad showed me, and then into now the business world. And then he would reward, like, for example, that first job, then I moved into another role, was called booking. So you're booking up all the trades for all the dealers. I moved into that relatively quickly, but that was, again, from probably the work ethic that I showed. I did everything the best of my ability when I got that first gig as the office junior. And then you move into the dealing room with the rest of the dealers, and you're exposed to everything they're saying to clients on the phone then. And then it's a bit of a process to then get your license. It was probably another 3 years before they let me train up to become a dealer. But that's a big process as well, especially back in the day, because you had to do several exams at the ASX. You had to do a written exam, and then you had to go into a governor's exam, and they start blasting you with questions, and it's quite pressurized and things like that. But it's pretty good as well, because the culture as well, everyone's family, because of the size of the firm. And it's still something that, even though we've grown hugely, it seems, because CMC ended up buying Andrew West.
You're right. Okay.
So that was
you've been there for a long time.
Yeah, bro. So that was I've been there from December 2003 to mid, what was it? Like 2012. And then we started our own company, me, Andrew, and a couple other guys, because Andrew retired once he sold his firm. And then he came back and helped us fund another. It was called Key Equities. We did that for about 3 years. And then once we got rid of that, I took a break for a couple of years. I did PT, because I always had my qualifications on the side. And then again, CMC then approached. Then I went back to an institutional firm for 1 year. I just really love finance. So I wanted to get back in. And then CMC, when ANZ, because ANZ and CMC merged into a stockbroking arm. And then the project was that big, they brought me back. So I've been back for 3 years. So combined, I've probably been at CMC nearly 13 years. So.
Oh, yeah. He's the OG CMC.
Yeah, pretty much. But again, man, it's like that culture and that family environment. We still, even though, like I said, our firm's huge now, in our department, in our dealing department, there's still those same sort of kind of values that we had, that Andrew showed, the way we treat clients, all that sort of stuff. Still, you wouldn't know. We could switch back to 2003. You wouldn't know. We didn't know that. Just say we had some aliens and we showed them 2003 and 2007. I'm pretty sure that it'll be very comparable. They could go, oh, that's very comparable, how you speak to people and how you treat your clients so nicely and how you all interact with each other. Because it's kind of like family. Like, for example, sometimes you work with people, but you don't consider them friends. Yeah. I consider everyone, that pretty much half my team I consider family, man.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I usually want to slap 90% of the people I work with.
I said half, bro. I said half.
Like, that's why I started this business. Every firm I went to, just a bunch of flops, bro. Not all of them. Obviously, there's always good people, but the majority, like a lot of them, you just go, fuck. And then I'm not you said when you started, you were at the bottom, the entry level, and you had to do all that stuff. And especially in corporate, they have that, they used to talk down to you, like, you got to earn your stripes. And treat you like a shit. And as soon as I walked into corporate and people were doing that, I was like, nah, bro, it's not going to go down. Like, I was like, I will fuck you up. Like,
that's the thing, mate, especially coming from your military background. You know how to push past a comfort zone, and your discipline is majorly high. Like you're interacting with people with no discipline and no ability to push past a comfort zone.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they just hide behind, people in corporate, especially just hiding behind years in a job, you know what I mean? Like, that was the shit that I just was like, who are, like, especially, my big thing is everyone should treat everyone like a human being, right? No matter what.
100%. That's
And
the thing.
When I come into corporate and people, I was like, bro, you tell me what you need to tell me, but don't speak to me like a piece of shit. I was like, oh, fuck, I'll kick you out this window real quick.
What's the thing? Like, I know that everyone needs to be told sometimes when they're doing something wrong, but I'm not sure. Have you ever read that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
It's an unbelievable book, but it just kind of reinforce things that I really need to do. Like, if I need to tell someone, like in that book, they say, like, before you're about to unload on someone, like, at least tell them something good about themselves or something
the sandwich technique. Good, bad, good.
Like, if you go in 100 miles an hour, like, you know where this is going, right? But at least if you kind of give them credit, even if it's for the littlest thing, like even in something shit they've done, I'm sure there's something that you can pick up in that shitness that is good.
Yeah, 100%. That's what we always focus on here, especially when Izzy and I, is the sandwich technique. You know, good, bad, good. Start with something good, give us what the problem is, and then finish with something good.
100%. I agree with that 100%. And it is effective.
Yeah, 100%. All right, just cautious time. We'll jump into the last bit here, bro. So give us a bit of turning hindsight into foresight. So we've got 3 areas that we believe. We believe that wealth is happiness, right? We don't believe in being rich here. We believe in wealth being the 3 cornerstones to being wealthy or happy is a good balance of money, health, and lifestyle, right? They're the 3 things that if you tweak those the right way, you can, live the best life you want. Obviously, there's subcategories under each, but they're the 3 major ones. So starting at the first one, which is both yours and mine, bread and butter. Money, what are some big mistakes or good things you did that you could go back and you pass on to the next generation or even to yourself to try and get yourself ahead quicker?
Yeah, I reckon the big one that I've learned in the last 5 years is the earlier you start saving and you start having financial goals, the better. Because it will help you separate, as you know, like just say you bring home 5 grand, 10 grand, whatever it is per month. Start thinking about portions of that wealth, which can be distributed either into savings. Like for me, for my wage, I have a portion that goes into savings, portion that goes into shares, and then the rest is my living expenses, right? But the earlier you think about that and start that, the better. Because then you're not spending shit on because you'll see that money in your bank account and then all of a sudden you get lazy and you start partying, all that sort of rubbish.
False sense of wealth, right?
Yeah. The other thing is it's like, especially in your probably late 20s, you start earning a little bit more money. Don't buy stupid cars. I bought stupid cars. Like you can buy the same car secondhand because as soon as you buy a car, the value of that car pretty much halves as soon as you drive that fucking thing out of the door. Yeah. So just because you might be able to pick up a few birds on it or a few guys, if you're a girl listening, it doesn't mean shit. And it's just an ego boost that down the track you will see does not mean anything.
Yeah, 100%. We're big on cars. We got a full strategy around how to buy your car appropriately. I got lots of messages for the new Mercedes we got, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, should you be spending that much?" It was 45 grand.
Exactly right. And there's different, as you said, there's different strategies and different options because you're a business owner too.
Yeah. 100%.
So all of a sudden there's different things that you can do. So, but yeah, that's definitely, especially as you're a 25 or a 30-year-old man and you don't own a business and you don't have options and you're just buying this car outright.
Yeah.
Well, that's a stupid fucking move.
Yeah, you said it. All right. So what about health, physical and mental?
Health, physical and mental. I reckon I didn't learn the mental side of things. I still struggle with mental side of things. Like I like listening to podcasts, kind of all about, all that meditation stuff. Because I really want to pick that up and be better at my own mental game, right? So I think that's some area where I still lack in comparison to my physical stuff. Like I mentioned, very sporty all over, had great mentors that showed me how to be very, very good in terms of training efficiencies. And like now, that's the thing as well, like make training and your health a priority because, for example, like I'm 38 and I've got no qualms in saying that I don't look 38. I look 30. It's because of the way I look after myself. A lot of people don't realize that, but it's the way it is. The earlier you start looking after yourself and prioritizing your health, everything else will work off the back of it. It was interesting. I had Anthony Seibold on the podcast 3 months ago, and he said the worst thing that he did during the Broncos thing was he stopped working out because he thought he had to be back into the harder he worked, the worse it got.
Yeah.
Because the priorities that when he was really good at his job, he reckons that he had this morning routine that was untouched. Like doing things for him that was really interesting in the morning was obviously working out, doing his reading and his self-development, right? As soon as he started hitting a bad period of time, he just dropped all that and it got worse and worse and worse. So not only was he not enjoying life, he was working harder like not working more efficient. He was doing all this, as I'm describing this is all a roundabout. So he's just killing his personal life and killing his work life. And he's getting worse at both because one would help the other.
Yeah.
So by eliminating what was really good in his life, he made it worse for himself and he wasn't enjoying his job. So that comes again, like, what is those priorities that you have in your life? Yeah, work's really, really important. Looking after your family is really important. But again, it comes to that analogy, Ryan, when they say on the plane, like, strap yourself, like if the plane's going down, strap yourself in before you strap your baby in, because you might, by the time you strap your baby in, you might be dead.
Yeah, that's right. We talk about it all the time, people trying to always, especially with money with whatever, trying to help everyone else. Hang on. You got to get yourself sorted first. Otherwise, how are you going to help them for longer than one time? Like, there's no longevity in that kind of stuff. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, totally agree. But that's something that he reinforced. But yeah, in terms of physical stuff, man, like I like to do something every day. Like, for example, gym is probably like 4 or 5 times a week. I like doing a boxing session, play Oz tag, and try, if I can, do a little bit of home yoga as well, man. So I think that's really important, especially as you get older. Like, drop the ego, man. We've been talking a lot about heavy lifting and things like that, but things like you'll be like, I didn't even like yoga until 2 years, man. I'm telling you, I go to yoga class. There's hot chicks in there. You're gonna get better at agility. You're gonna feel. It's just there's a calmness about you. Like, yoga's not bad. Just do it once, test it out.
Yoga's good to go.
Yeah, man. So
yoga's good to go. It's yeah, people. I think it's started to lose that stigma about being feminine. I see a lot more bigger, stronger athletes doing it. I think it's a good way towards. I love yoga. If I don't do it anywhere near as much as I used to, but yeah, it's really good for that flexibility and that movement patterns as well.
Totally agree, my man.
Lifestyle. So last one. So lifestyle. Obviously you talk about the car and stuff like that, but you've got to. There's no point living and doing everything else if you don't have a lifestyle, right? But obviously we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what that proper lifestyle looks like, and at the start it's usually a lot of drinking and a lot of partying, and then later on you realize it's probably a little bit less of that and a bit more experience driven. What would you go back and say to yourself about lifestyle to try and improve what you've done?
Yeah, lifestyle, I reckon, because I'm a very people person, and I think your job is very similar, where you meet up with a lot of people, have good conversation, right? I think the best thing about life is living life. So when I say that, we've been a very technology driven, so it's easier for you to text instead of call. It's easier for you to call instead of meeting up. If I have any advice for anyone out there, especially the younger brigade, meet up more in person. Have way more interaction in person. Even if, like, I said this to mum and dad as well, because I'm so busy with all the podcasts and things like that. I go to them, look, instead of me trying to pretend that I'm being this family guy and spending 10 hours with you on a Sunday, why don't we just spend 2 hours to make it as efficient as possible and chat everything and have a good laugh? I'd rather chat with and have a good time with you for 2 hours than do it for 2 hours and then the next 8 hours just bullshit because we're just trying to pretend that we love each other like 100%. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do it. Like, be efficient with your things. Like, even when you catch ups, right? Isn't it better to catch up with your best mate for half an hour for a coffee and see him in person or her in person? And that interaction, and you'll be surprised how much different that is than trying to have like a 2-hour phone call with them. I'm telling you, that interaction in person is worth probably the whole week's worth of phone calls. But it's just a simple step in terms of like being together with people. And I think that's where kind of the world is kind of fading a little bit in that technology world, where we're kind of making it so easy for us not to be in person and stuff like that.
I'll agree. I agree with that, but I'll also say that I'm very bad for that. I'm very bad. Like I'm a texter.
That's
like,
what I said. We all are, mate.
Yeah, I'm very bad for it.
And we hide behind it, bro.
Yeah. And I like what you said about time, like putting a time limit sort of thing on it to get more out of it. Because like some weekends we have so much on, I come home and I say to Gemma, like I'll turn my phone off and like I just need to sit in a room. Like I let, because I do it all week long with people. Then on the weekend I do it. It takes so much out of me. You know what I mean? Like it really.
Yeah, that's the lifestyle. What it is, Ryan. It's just like it is your time, right?
Yeah.
So if it means an hour, just be efficient for that 1 hour with that person and give them your rest. I mean, that what 1 hour, leave your phone in the car. Like
100%.
Be present.
That's why I really enjoy the gym with mates, because you that technology is away and it's generally good conversation, and it's usually for about an hour, and you're training at the same time, right? But it's a real positive environment. Like as a kid, a lot of my catch ups when I used to fly back home from the army was always training. Let's go for a sesh. Let's grab a session. Because
you can get things off your chest. You can get advice from your mate. It could be relationship advice. It could be financial advice. It could be anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. All right, thanks heaps for that, bro. That was good. Now that you've gone through all our questions, we'll finish up with, well, actually, firstly, if you could summarize it all in like a little quote and say back to yourself to get yourself ahead quicker, what would it be? Just like a one sentence quote you'd say to your younger self to help yourself out.
Oh, one sentence. It'll just be try. You know what? Give everything a go, be open-minded, but respect everyone's opinion.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really good. See, we're getting people come on here and they don't know what to say, and then they pump out something like that. And I'm like, I'm going to create a whole book of these little quotes at the end of it, and it's going to.
No, I think that's big. And I say that to a lot of my mates now. It's like everyone's very, very different in their beliefs. Some people are religious. Some people have different ways they approach life. But for me, I'll always be very open-minded in terms of like, if you want to, especially in the podcast world, because people just tell you shit, right? But the same with my mates. I'm a good listener. Like, if you want to tell me something, tell me. I might not agree with you, and I'll only if you ask me for my advice back, I'll tell you. But I'm not going to give it to you unless you give it. But I always respect your opinion. Doesn't necessarily mean I have to actually, like me and you today. There was a couple of things you didn't agree with what I said, but you respected me to let me give my opinion.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? And the same as me. Some of the things I don't agree with you, but I respect you, and I know it works for you. So
yeah, I love that. No, I say to people all the time, you don't have to agree to respect. Like you could, because something I see I'm very good at, I believe, is I can see things from other people's opinion.
Yeah.
So I can see how you feel that way, and I respect that you feel it when you're correct for you. I just don't have to agree with it from my point of view, right? 100%. I love that. It's brilliant. All right. So to finish off, bro, thanks for coming on. Thanks for everything that you've done. Just quickly before you finish up, you've gone through our piece. So give us a bit about you. So plug yourself. So what are you doing now? Who do you want to connect with that can help, or that you can help, or that can help you? And what's coming up next for TK?
Yeah, talking with TK. So if you're interested in sports chats, that's probably where you want to find. There's a whole heap of different things, from athletes to coaches, whole different things about struggles in life, about kind of how they made it on their road to success. So something, everything, both boys and girls on their chats. So again, that one, we've got a fantasy league podcast now, Talking League, which is something that I've kind of been smashing out lately.
You guys pump up some mad numbers on that Instagram too.
Yeah, we've been smashing it on that. So it's an easy sell, especially during the footy season, Kingy. So yeah, really enjoying that at the moment. And books out, Talking with Champions. So you can pick that up at pretty much any bookstore. But yeah, and if you want some equities trading, just hit me up. CMC Markets, baby.
All right, brother. Thanks heaps for coming on. Really appreciate it. We'll tag all that stuff. We'll put it all over the screen during the video, and people can get in touch, drop us a DM, or go straight to TK and have a chat. Make sure you follow his shit.
Great to catch up, Kingy, and let's grab a beer or a coffee soon, my man.
Oh, soon, brother, soon. As soon as I can get out of this house and come out, if I can make the trip out to the city, we're on.
You know it. Nah, it's great to catch up,
Thanks, mate.
See you, Russ.